Good morning, everybody. Testing 1, 2, 3. What's to say we can't start a minute or two early, or even a few seconds early? Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse, August the 4th, 2025, 11 a.m. Central European Time. Happy birthday to my mum. It's her birthday today. I think she's not a day over 21, but what do I know? I hope you're all doing really well. I hope you had a great weekend. Bitcoin has recovered somewhat from its lows. It's back now at, I think, 114,500. We're going to look at the charts in a minute. A few good mornings. Hidden, Kishan, KB, good morning to you all. I hope you are well. We've got a lot to get through today, as we always do. We have the X-Files, we have the markets. We're going to look at the charts today. We're going to go through what Arthur Hayes had to say. And for once, I think I'm in agreement with him. We're going to talk about risky business, not the film. Well, I don't know, actually. Tom Cruise, Vitalik Buterin, maybe brothers from another mother. But we're going to talk about risky business. We're going to talk about treasuries. We're going to talk about All Dead Dave, which is a Red Dwarf joke, if you don't know that. We're going to talk about Lubian, what happened with that. And we're going to talk about the threat of AI. Many things to talk about on this show. We've got 1 hour to do it from start to finish. That's what we set ourselves. We don't go a second over, ever. So, let's get into the charts. Also, don't forget, we are streaming on Binance Live, Binance Square, and YouTube today. So, good morning to all of the people watching on Binance Square. Say hello in chat. I am watching. Kishan is in there with a few others. Good morning to you. I hope you're well. We are live on YouTube, as I've just read out some of the names over there. I hope you're all doing well. Danny is in chat. Good morning. I suppose we should go and have a look at the markets. Let me bring up the charts and have a look. I think we're at 114.5. I could be wrong, but that's where I think we are today. And again, where do we go from here? I spent 35 minutes on Friday telling you what I think we're going to do. And I told you for 35 minutes on Friday, I spent saying what we were going to do. And then, no word of a lie, I had 6 DMs over the weekend asking me what Bitcoin was going to do. You can't make it up. So if you want to know what I think is going to happen over the next 2 months, technically 2.5 months, go and watch the first 35 minutes from the show on Friday. Then you're going to know. Then you're going to know. He's going to know. You're going to know. Bitcoin, 114.5, better than it was. Look at Ethereum, back over $3,500. Isn't that a beautiful sight? Also, don't forget, I made a video called Summer Lulling 2 months ago telling you these prices. I went back and watched it yesterday, and I astounded myself with my level of accuracy. The only coin I got wrong was Solana. And I said we'd go to $200 to $250. And I think we only got as far as $210, $215. So that was the only one I got wrong. I got XRP right. I got Bitcoin right. I got Ethereum right. So that's good to know. That's a little bit of positivity for me. You know, it doesn't matter whether you believe me or not, but positivity for me. Right then, BNB hanging around. Remember, that went over $800. These are nice little tiny bounces, but that's all they are. They're tiny little bounces. Solana is doing okay. Doge, Cardano at 74 cents, a little bit lower than I would like right now. Now that's an interesting one for the books. Stellar has flipped. Hype is down below $40, $38.20. Look at Stellar. Stellar has taken its position. Is Hype going to fall below Sui? Is Hype going to fall below Chainlink? Is Hype going to end up down here with Toncoin? Maybe. I have been saying for weeks now that I think it's going to fade just a touch. The hype around Hype is dying out, in my humble opinion. It's still a great project, still has great tokenomics, still has a massive buyback, it still has massive volumes. Yes, I get that. But is it a top 10 cryptocurrency? That I don't think so. Gainers then, Athena, Stellar, Injective, Bonk, Floki, Pudgy. The memes are coming back. XRP is back at exactly $3. Exactly $3. That's where I want it to be. Potenza is up. ENS. I mean, who buys ENS token? Really? Is that even a token that people bother with? Losers then. Pump. I don't care what people say. That coin is cursed for now. Maybe in the future, when they've got their pump chain launched, and maybe when they're doing all of their amazing pump and dumps, maybe it goes up from here. But I am not touching that with yours, as the saying goes. Pi is down. Pi's a waste of time as well. Ton is down. That's not a waste of time. That's a good token. Hype is down. Sonic at 30 cents, I think, is decent. Okay, there isn't enough coming out about Sonic. The hype has also died down. I bought into Sonic between 40 and 50 cents. That's what I thought was a good entry price for me. So I think 30 cents is a good price for Sonic, but we need to see a little bit more of the way after this airdrop and after the tokenomics have been released. We need to see where it goes from here. GT token is down a touch. KuCoin is down just a touch. Not many losers today. We're happy about that, aren't we? We are happy. We don't want to see losers. We don't want to see losers. Now, let's move on then. There's a few X-Files, but we do have a lot of charts to get through. Remember, it's a Monday. We look at the data as best we can see it. We look at the calendar of events, what's coming up. I'm not going to bother looking at liquidations today. I don't think anything's going to have been liquidated in the last 24 hours. I think the liquidations all happened on Friday and Saturday, so there's no point looking at that. We did have a lot of drama over the weekend, of course, which we're going to cover. The Satoshi statue disappeared, but they think it was some kind of drunken event, because I think on the 1st of August there is some kind of party over there in Switzerland. Right then, 10 years ago today, Bitcoin was $280. You're looking at that now and you're thinking, I've missed out on a $280 Bitcoin. And you'd be right. But maybe 10 years from now, you'll be watching somebody else. Maybe the Oracle will still be doing this. And it will be, fun fact, 10 years ago today, Bitcoin was $115,000. And you'll look at that and go, crikey, the $1.5 million Bitcoin used to be $115,000. Because that's what happens. You look back over a period of 5 or 6 years, and Bitcoin has appreciated in value massively over that time. Don't go over a 12-month period. Go over a 4, 5, 6, 7-year period. I think there's a calculation. I think if you've held Bitcoin for something like 6 years or 7 years, whatever it is, if you've held Bitcoin that long, you are always going to be in profit. I think you can, if you bought Bitcoin before the peak of the last bull run, I think if you just go back, so what's that, 5 years maybe? This is the second one. Now, the reason this one's important is this is when I was buying Bitcoin. August the 6th, 2017. So 8 years ago, I was buying Bitcoin. And the reason I know that is I was buying $300 of Bitcoin at a time, and it was 0.1 of a Bitcoin was costing me $300. That's why I remember buying in 2017. And this, I think, had come off of a previous price. I think it was down at $3,200. Either that or I was buying nowhere near the top. But anyway, I was buying at $3,000. So this one stuck in my memory. Because if you go down here and you look at the top 5 from that time, it hasn't really changed that much. Of course, BCH and Litecoin have gone. But look at the top 3. Now, there was a time where, back in 2021, if you went back another 4 years from 2021, if you went back another 6 years from 2021, you were finding that the top 10 coins were just, they'd all gone apart from maybe Bitcoin. So I think if we go forward another 4 years, I still think you're going to find Bitcoin and Ethereum and probably XRP as 1, 2, and 3. And I think that's just a sign that the markets are maturing. And that's another thing to bear in mind as we go further on, as Bitcoin appreciates in value more and more, the market will mature. You look at what the top 10 assets are today, the Apples, the Googles, the Metas, the things like that. They weren't there 10 years ago, but now they are there. Are they going to be here in another 5 or 10 years' time? I'd say so. I'd say so. Certainly not, maybe not all of them, but certainly. Right then, they did find the Satoshi statue. It was thrown into the lake. What a bit of drama that was. And that unfolded over the weekend, by the way, because I think the Bitcoin Foundation were offering 0.1 Bitcoin to anybody that found the statue, which is what, $11,000 to find the statue. Somebody found it. I think they've paid them for finding the statue. Probably somebody who threw it in the lake originally, admittedly. But yeah, they found the statue, so that's back to where it was. That tweet is not there. And then finally, I don't know what this tweet is either, but we shall find out. Now, I do. Yeah, I remember those days as well. You know what? I was feeling very sentimental putting this stream together yesterday. Because it's kind of... It's going to get really boring. Crypto is just going to become boring. Okay? Why do people invest in crypto? Because it's more exciting than the stock exchange. More exciting than bonds. More exciting than commodities. But it's just going to end up like that. 5 or 10% a year. Steady growth. Probably for the next 20, 30, 40 years, whatever. It's going to get boring. And then I think people are probably just going to move on to the next thing. Now, this is quite another sad story. I remember this happening. James Howells, he basically mined Bitcoin on his laptop. And then he threw it away. And it went to a trash heap in the UK. And he was trying all kinds of things. Crowdfunding, offering a third of the money, whatever it might be, to basically recover the hard drive that had $950 million on it. And he's given up. He's given up. And it's a sad day. It is a sad day, of course. But again, this is another little bit, a little bit of Bitcoin folklore that has now come to pass. You know, there's lots of things that we've seen the end of over the last couple of years that are quite sad. They're like throwbacks to the early days of Bitcoin and crypto. And they're all going one by one. And it's quite sad to see because, you know, as these things go, crypto becomes a little bit boring. You know, when things start out, you look at bands. When bands start, they're exciting. It's their music. They all get, you know, really rave reviews. And then what happens is they get processed through the music machine. And then they come out the other end and they're polished. They're clean shaven. They sing happy, middle of the ground music, and they're just crap. They just become crap. That's the end of them. And I think that, unfortunately, is the way we're going to go. Now, what have we got this week? We don't really have a lot to come out this week. There was a lot of bad data last week. I don't know whether the employment data is a ploy to get the rates cut. The drama is this. 2 of the Fed committee reneged. I think it's the first time it's happened in 30 years. Another one of the Fed committee resigned over the weekend or on Friday. So Trump gets to put somebody else in there. It's all looking very, very much like Powell is going to be crushed under the pressure. And I was on his side. I've said this all along. I was on his side until about June. And I follow Trueflation. Trueflation, for me, is a more accurate depiction of the American inflation situation than the Fed's own figures and the market's own figures, because you can't believe them. They get the housing data wrong. They got the unemployment data wrong. And you expect them to get the inflation data correct? I don't think so. So I think they're wrong. Trueflation is showing inflation in America at 1.7%. I think that's accurate. If you shift the Fed's figures 1 month to the left, then they tie up with Trueflation a lot more than they do on the previous month. So if you go back 2 months, they're accurate. But if you go back a month, they're not accurate. So again, how can you make decisions when the data is wrong? You can't, in my opinion. Right, let's move on very quickly. Also, one other thing. My mouse is playing up. It double clicks, and it's likely to close the browser window down at some point on today's stream. So don't worry if the screen goes blank. It's my mouse. I need a new one. Right, let's move on to TradingView. And again, Everything is slow today. Everything is slow today. I do have a poll question of the day, by the way. The poll question is this. Are we going to have an up August or a down August? And so far, 80% of you, despite what I was telling you on Friday, 80% of you expect us to have an up August. I've told you what's going to happen. It's not going to be up and up and up unless something dramatic happens, in my opinion. Anyway, let's move on. I can't keep an eye on... Why has the live stream ended? Anyway, I don't know what's wrong with Binance Square. I'm going to work on that. It's playing up. Right then, let's move on. The DXY, how far are we coming up today? Now, Kishan was in there. Kishan, can you let me know why the live stream cut off? Did anything happen while you were in there? Because it shouldn't have just cut off. Right then. Why is this so slow? Here we go. So, we said last week that the DXY was going to recover. We said as well that the DXY is coming to a decision point, and is it going to get rejected at its bull market support band? As we can clearly see, it got rejected at the bull market support band, but it's come down to this line here, so I expect this to come back up. Okay, I expect us to see another run at 100. The dollar, I think, is being kept here by Trump on purpose. And I think he wants a weaker dollar so exports go up and maybe imports come down. But having a weaker dollar is going to impact the inflation rate by all means, which is probably why he's trying to shift his focus towards more energy production in America, drive the cost down of energy production, make America more efficient. That's what I'm thinking. But this is a minor rejection. This is only on the daily. So I expect this to break at some point. We're at 98.8. We're going to go back towards 100, 101 again, maybe 102. So there's nothing massively to report here. We did say it had a decision point last week, and it got there, and it got rejected. But again, it's only one piece of data. You can't base everything off one piece of data. That's never going to get you anywhere. Right then, let's move on. Let's have a look at the Bitcoin dominance. Again, we did cover a lot of this on Friday. And I don't really want to spend a ton of time going back over it again because we spent so long on Friday on this. And what we said on Friday, go back there. What we said on Friday was that I expected Bitcoin dominance to move back up. And if Bitcoin dominance moves back up, but the price doesn't really change, then I expect the alts to suffer. That's what I said. Now, if we go back, we have followed this line quite well. And what I think is going to happen is we're going to get to this point and we're either going to get rejected at 63%, and we're at 62% now. So we're either going to have a slight move back up and get rejected, or if we do come back up, probably come back up towards about the 65-66% range. That's what's going to happen. A little bit like the DXY last week. It's coming towards the bull market support band. Is it going to get rejected? It's only the moving average, but we call it a bull market support band. Is it going to get rejected and come back down again? Or is it going to move up? Well, we kind of need to look at Ethereum. Is Ethereum going to move up from $3,500, $3,600? I don't know whether there's enough gas there for that. So if Ethereum moves down, and that's the biggest altcoin, then the only direction for me is the red line that I drew on Friday, which is a move back into this channel that we've been in for 2 years. So I think Bitcoin dominance can have a little smooch back up, 64, 65, 66%, get back in that channel, and then just hang out there for 2 months. So, as I said, Bitcoin dominance can go up without the price of Bitcoin moving if the alts start to come down. So Bitcoin could sit at $115,000 for the next 2 months and not move a cent. If Ethereum, XRP, Solana, BNB, if they start to move down, Bitcoin dominance will move up, even though the price of Bitcoin hasn't moved. That's something to bear in mind, because this is only, the percentage of the total market cap in Bitcoin. That's all it is. So for every $100, there's $62 in Bitcoin, $38 in alts. So it's only the percentage of the overall market. There's no magic science behind this. But I think we're going to go back in. I'm not going to keep showing you all this stuff, but back in January, we broke down. We got back in the range. We stayed in the range for another 6 months. We've broken down. Ethereum went on a run. I think we're going to go back into it. So I don't see anything to change my mind over the weekend. And like I said, Bitcoin is in a channel. So those of you that think we might be going to $80,000, $85,000, we might do, but it's not going to happen in a straight line. We will slowly but surely edge our way down there. Lower highs, lower lows, that kind of stuff. That's all possible to happen. Now, this is... Oh, hang on. Let me get back. It's back on the screen. I don't know why it's defaulting to the 4-hourly. TradingView has its own mind. And I'm not sure it's of complete sound, mind, and body. Right then. Let me just bring this up a little bit. So this is the daily, right? Okay. Now, this is an interesting price that we're at. And the reason it's interesting is when we were having all of our bullish chats about the fact that Trump had won the election and we're all going to go to the moon and we're all going to be rich and we're all going to drive around in Tariq's Teslas and we're all going to have a party at KB's house. We were there having a great time. We're there now. People aren't having a great time. People are not happy, okay? Because recency bias. We came down and we have bounced at the same line we were at in December and January. December last year and January this year. So that was like the euphoria of Trump becoming the president. And then, of course, since then, we've had the tariff news. More tariffs, tariffy. We've got Russia on the horizon, all that going on. We've got all the other stuff. So there's a reason for us to be where we are. But think about how you felt in January. And think about how you feel now. But we're at the same total market cap. We're in two different worlds, aren't we? You're not anywhere near as bullish right now today as you were in January. In January, the sun shone out of Trump's hair. Okay? And now you're sitting there thinking, I don't know whether it's going to be too good. Now, I think we could do this and mimic this before we go anywhere. Total market cap jiggles around. So again, we have had a bounce. We did wick lower, but we've recovered a little bit. And maybe we come up a little bit further over the next few days. You know, the pressure is mounting on our friend. And our friend, Powell, is going to buckle. And he is going to cut rates in September. And there is nothing anybody can do about it. We've now got an 80 to 90% chance of a rate cut in September. I think we only get, is it 10 rate cuts a year? And I think August there's no meeting for a rate cut. Right, lastly, this is the ETH Bitcoin dominance. So, if we hang around in this channel that we are in, and again, we've gone to the 4-hourly. If we hang around in this channel on the ETH Bitcoin chart, we are going to come down again. So we are probably going to see this kind of action. Okay. Now, you're all really happy that your Ethereum is sitting at $3,500. I am happy that Ethereum is sitting at $3,500. But this chart tells a different story. Now, before we can even get happy, we have to get back up here. Okay? And that is 0.4. And we're at 0.31. So Ethereum's got to move 33% against Bitcoin just to get back above that line. What's that? That takes us to $5,300. Do you see a $5,300 Ethereum right now? I don't. We might have a run on Ethereum. Bitcoin might hang around and Ethereum does break up. We do have the Ethereum ETF on the horizon. We are going to see a supply shock on Ethereum in the near future. But is that going to happen in August? I don't think so. Is it going to happen towards the end of September? Maybe. So it's not necessarily if, it's more when. And I just don't see Ethereum breaking out without something to spark it. Something has to spark this revival from Ethereum, because Ethereum has done exceptionally well. It got to the bull market support band. It's then completely broken free. Well, the next step for me would be to retest it and then break up. But that takes time. That takes time. And I don't think we've got any time to do that before the end of summer. We are already on August the 4th. We've got summer, July, August and September. I don't count September as summer, but it is, isn't it? So I think we've got 5 or 6 weeks to chop around on Ethereum, and that's pretty much it. I'm not going to look at the Bitcoin exchanges. I'm going to move on to talk about what Arthur Hayes has got to say, because he's a little bit more bearish than me. Where's Villain Bear in chat when you need him? Where is the bear when you need the bear? The bear's never here when you need him. Good morning, Tariq. I hope you are well. I haven't changed the title of the show, by the way. It's still called August Woe. I'm not going to change that for a while until we see some kind of positive momentum. Right then. Arthur Hayes says Bitcoin could drop to $100,000, reveals profit-taking move. The address tied to Hayes now holds $28.3 million in tokens, with 23 million sitting in USDC, according to Arkham Intelligence. Again, traditionally, August and September is down. It's down. Maybe 5 or 10%. And if it is a gainer, it's a very small gain, maybe 2 or 3%. Again, we covered that on Friday. I'm not covering it again today. It's an absolute waste of time. People that were here on Friday, which most of you are in chat, you've seen that chart. The majority of the column for August and September is red. I think it's 2/3 red, 1/3 green. If you go back to July, I don't even think it's a third green, a third red and 2/3 green. The other thing is, Ethereum has a better first half of the year than a second half of a year. So history dictates Bitcoin comes down a little bit, Ethereum comes down a lot. However, that's not going to... We can't have these things set in stone. We can only use history to predict the future. And we're predicting a sideways action. Now, Arthur has taken half of his cash off the table, roughly. He has warned that Bitcoin could drop to $100,000 because of weak job data and slowing credit growth. He's already sold 13 million in crypto and shifted most of his holdings into USDC. His outlook contrasts with growing market optimism that traditional Bitcoin cycles are fading. They are fading, but they haven't gone. I don't believe we're ever going to see a 60 to 70% move down again in the history of Bitcoin without a major black swan. Where would 60 or 70% take Bitcoin? $40,000? Maybe. Do you see 45,000? Do you see Bitcoin ever going to $45,000 again? I mean, we might as well pack up and go home if we go back down there. We'd break through every level of support. We'd go below the previous all-time high. We'd go 35% below the previous all-time high. It would be brutal, absolutely brutal to go down there. But I do think we are going to see 20%, 30% corrections, less 30, more 20. So he sold 8.3 million worth of ETH, 4.6 million worth of Athena, and 414,000 worth of Pepe. So now he holds, as I said, about 55% tokens, 45% cash. He predicts crypto to come down a little bit. And I agree with that. I do agree. I think we are going to chop. Now, I'm not looking at the Bitcoin chart today because my mouse won't do it, but I think we've got the bull market support band, which I think one of them is 100,000, another is 104,000. They are both very good levels of support for Bitcoin. Could we wick lower? Yes, we could wick to 96, 94,000, but it would take a lot to get us there. Now, given that the markets expect a rate cut in September, given that we're getting towards the end of the traditional 4-year cycle, I expect a chop. And we could certainly bounce off 100,000. If Bitcoin goes to 100,000, by the way, your alts are going to be slightly more wrecked than they are today. But remember, they're also up a lot since where they were. We're talking about a $3 XRP. That's a good price for XRP. We're talking about a $3,500 Ethereum. So getting wrecked, a 20% move down for Ethereum, a 20% move down for XRP, it's not the end of the world. Go back to last year, Bitcoin went from 52 to 104,000 in a matter of weeks. So it doubled in price in a matter of weeks. Bitcoin does that again. Your alts are all going to go to the moon. So let's not worry too much about a minor retracement. We've had 5. We have 6 to 7 retracements. The last one was, of course, the tariffs. But we're going to get another one. And that's going to happen between now and October. And maybe we do go further down. I think the Oracle said in Telegram yesterday, he expects, was it 86,000 he said? Now, if you take 30% off 120 and you take 36,000, you get to 84,000. So if he's right, which he very well could be, 86,000 is his target. Mine is a little bit higher. Mine's 94 to 96,000 or around that. I don't think it's going to get that bad, but it might do. It might do. So he's sold out, and he has said this. US tariff bill coming due in third quarter. At least the market believes that after the NFP print, no major economy is creating enough credit fast enough to boost nominal GDP. So Bitcoin tests 100, ETH tests 3. You know what? I'm on board with that, and I think we should be, because if we come out of this with Ethereum at $3,000 and Bitcoin over $100,000 or $100,000, I think that's a great takeaway. I'd be happy with that. I think they're good prices. If we do see a doubling of Bitcoin, and it doubles from 86 as the Oracle predicts, that takes us to 170,000. We'd take that. Ethereum would do more than that, so we'd go from maybe $3,000 to $7,000. I'd take that. Where would XRP go? $6 to $7? I'd take that all day long. So we have to sometimes come down for a period before we can go up. Nothing goes up in a straight line. So I'm on board with him. I am on board with him, believe it or not. And it might sound that I change my opinion with the wind if you only tune in every once in a while. But it depends where we are. If we're in January or February, I'll have a different opinion to where we are today. But my videos that I've been making since January and February, I watched them back, and I'm still in agreement with what I said in January and February. That was 8 months ago. I still believe what we said 8 months ago and 7 months ago. Okay? But it's a different time. We've got kind of the short and the medium term. Short is the next 2 or 3 months. Medium, the next 6 to 12 months. Long term, of course, buy Bitcoin. So, I think the Oracle is going to make this into a video, because this is more the Oracle's actual shtick. And this is to do Risky Business, by the way, was a film with Tom Cruise in, if you're wondering what that is. Now, Risk V, I'm going to basically talk you through this, and I'm not going to read from the article because it's a little bit complex, and I don't want to baffle you with science. Basically, Ethereum is based on what's called the EVM, the Ethereum Virtual Machine, and all of the contracts, all of the contracts for DeFi, all of the contracts for the DEX, everything like that, all runs on the Ethereum EVM. And it also allows people to communicate across different chains. But there isn't the code base is different, so people have to change code to make it work. So it's not that flexible. Now, Vitalik plays Tom Cruise in this version of Risky Business, okay? Now, you're going to have to think real hard to put Vitalik in Tom Cruise's shoes, okay? Number one, I think Vitalik is substantially taller, probably about 5'8" to 5'10". And as we all know, Tom Cruise, I think, is about 5'2". So you've got to imagine pretty hard that Vitalik is Tom Cruise. Now, what Vitalik has said is we should move the entire system from the EVM into Risk V or Risk 5, okay? And there are millions of contracts. So what is the best thing to do? The best thing to do would be to run them side by side and have the EVM as like the legacy system, the old system, and then have Risk V running as the new system. Now, there's loads of examples of this happening in the world. Look at analog lines, became digital lines, became fiber optic lines. They all ran parallel for years and years and years. So there is plenty of tech out there that has run side by side for a very long time. 4G is still available, 3G, 5G, they're all available. And then 5 or 6 years down the line, they turn off 3G, or they'll turn off 4G in 5 or 6 years' time. So there's no precedent being set here. This is just how it works. Now, why would moving to Risk V help Ethereum? It would help with the speed. It would help with the coding. And by coding, I mean it would kind of use a shared code base amongst different chains. So speed, efficiency, cut down on time, all that kind of stuff is great. And my suggestion to the Oracle is that this could be done using AI. Now, not the AI of today. Remember where AI was 2 years ago, and then look at it today. Imagine where AI is going to be in 2 years' time. We're going to get to the end of that exponential curve, and it's going to start plateauing out. So potentially for me, in the next 1 to 2 years, you will have AI, and it will be able to audit the contracts that have moved from the EVM over to the new system. It will be able to write the contracts. It will be able to check for vulnerabilities. All of those things are going to be available. So it sounds like a mammoth task, but Vitalik isn't thinking in terms of weeks. He's thinking in terms of years. And we know TradFi is here. Now, what's stopping TradFi building on Risk V rather than building on the EVM? Nothing. So I think having the parallel system running side by side for the next 5 or 6 years is answer number one. AI is answer number two. Answer number three is you have the ability to update rather than add, and you kind of start to force platforms to use the new system. So for me, this is the best thing for them to do. And again, one thing that I knock him. I knock him a lot. I know I do, because I don't think he's the right person to be the face of Ethereum. But he's still one of the top 3 cleverest people in crypto. And he should be in charge of stuff like this. This is his forte. This is Vitalik. This is what he does the best. And I don't think he should be distracted by anybody. I think they should just leave him to do this, and he'll do it the right way. Okay? That's in my opinion. And I think Ethereum is in safe hands as long as Vitalik has some steer of that ship. I think the other side of the ship, the galley, that should be in charge of other people. Right, let's move on. Let's see where we are. While we're loading, let's have an update on the poll. I think you all expect miracles this month. It's moving. 43% say down and 57% say up. So it is shifting in the right direction. I don't think we're going to go up. Anyway, I don't know why this is taking so long to load, but this clearly isn't my end today for once. We will get there. We will get there. And if we don't, we'll just move on. What was this article about? This is about Cardano. Should I just give this a miss? Doesn't seem to be loading. Yeah, I'm going to give this a miss. Right, basically, Cardano is starting to provide funding to the community so the community can start to expand and outside of the Cardano ecosystem. So onto different sexes, advertising, all that kind of stuff. So that's what that was about. And I think Charles is on board with it. A few people, a few dissenting voices. But that's what you get in a democracy. You get dissenting voices and you need to listen to them. But you need to take on board the will of the majority. So, the token is dead. Long live the token. And again, that was a Red Dwarf title for those that have ever seen Red Dwarf. Crypto tokens have failed retail investors through insider concentration and poor design, regulation, and tokenized real-world assets offer hope for a revival. Now again, we haven't done many project reviews in a while, simply because I don't think it's the time in the market to do that. We did say this probably a year ago, that kind of the token launches that were coming out had started to lessen in value. We haven't covered meme coins in a very long time. And the reason is that we got to the stage where you were basically exit liquidity for everybody. And, you know, people were launching tokens. Look at Pump.fun. Pump.fun has extracted $1 or $1.5 billion from you. And they are letting their token run down and down and down. It's now less than $1 billion. I think it's at $950 million, something like that. Now, can it have a recovery? Absolutely. Of course it can. But the token has basically washed $1.5 billion into their pockets on top of the money they've made from Pump.fun. So they're clearly making way too much money out of the system. And the majority of tokens that are launched today are basically to pay the holders. That's what they do. You know, stock market listings are the same thing in stocks and shares. You've got a private company, you own 25% of the shares. Suddenly, you list your company on the AIM, which is the alternative investment market, and suddenly your 25% of your shares are suddenly worth $2 million, $3 million. So you can sell them. So you're exit liquidity because you're buying the shares of the founder of the company. In this instance, you're buying tokens off a company that's built a website and built a product. Maybe it has a turnover. Maybe it's like a DeFi platform so there are funds coming into it. But at the end of the day, somebody said the other day 90% of crypto aren't commodities. Sorry, aren't securities. And I absolutely disagree with that statement. I think 75% of tokens in existence today are securities. And I think clearly the likes of Bitcoin, they are not securities. But you can't have the barometer swing from everything's a security to nothing's a security, because they're both wrong. They're both wrong clock times. You need a midday. You need a middle ground where you assess it correctly. And at the end of the day, the people that get hurt are retail and you. You're getting fleeced, they're getting fleeced. Now, there is some light on the end of the horizon, and that is these synthetic stocks and real-world asset projects, because they're not the same. Yes, they have, their own tokens. You know, Ondo has its own token. Syrup is its own token. So I know that. but there is real value being provided by those businesses. Ondo has just launched, is it 3 or 4 or 500 stocks on their platform? They've already got USDY. They've already got the OUSG token, things like that. Maple broke $3 billion AUM, so there's value there. But the problem is, what you're looking at is when you look at, let's say I launch a coin and call it Mike token, and I've got my own DEX, and I say, right, my DEX, it's going to turn over X, you're going to get paid Y, buy my token, and I'll use the profits for the buyback. Okay? Token goes live, you buy off me, I make $10 million, I sit there, and then there's $500 a day of the token being bought back, and I'm sitting on $10 million. I've done what I've said I was going to do, but you're sitting on a token that's probably going to lose 75% of its value. There are few companies out there on the web, in Web3, really making money. And I cannot stress to you enough that if you can look at a project and you don't know how it makes money, then you are how it makes money. The combined effect of retail direct investment has been blocked, path to primary public fundraise. Okay, we don't need to talk anymore about that. I just wanted to get that off my chest, that not every project out there has your best interests at heart at the end of the day. I think that's the key. I said it on Twitter yesterday. BlackRock don't like you. Michael Saylor doesn't like you. They are not your friends. At some point, Michael Saylor is going to not be alive long enough. He's going to be around long enough to become a villain. BlackRock are going to be around long enough to become a villain. And there are many ways that BlackRock can become a villain. They can have enough Ethereum in their portfolio to sway the votes. Saylor and Strategy could be around long enough for the price of Bitcoin to crash, liquidate Strategy, which means 900,000 or however many he ends up with, 1.1 million Bitcoin all get sold at the same time, completely destroys the price of Bitcoin, therefore destroys all of the trust in Bitcoin, and he could be a black swan. BlackRock certainly could be a black swan. So just because they're good for us doesn't mean they're always going to be good for us. Arkham exposes $3.5 billion in Bitcoin theft from Lubian in China, now worth $14.5 billion. Again, we're not going to read too much about this because I don't want to overrun. Let me check the time first before I carry on. 11:47. We've got, 13 minutes. We'll go through the next article in more depth than this because this is the one I want to kind of like get across to you. None of your friends are going to ask you about this, but a lot of your friends will ask you about the next article, and I just want to have you prepared for them. Arkham uncovers silent crypto heist at the Lubian pool. Now, this is a lot of money to be stolen and it not be highlighted. So a faulty key algorithm caused Lubians massive loss. After the theft, they sent a message to the hacker using the blockchain. The message said, "To the white hat who is saving our asset, you can contact us." The company also issued a reward. However, the hacker never got back. The coins have not been used even in the purse. Now, these things are going to become less frequent, but as the market caps of crypto, the different crypto assets get bigger, these hacks are going to get bigger. I predict at some point in the future, we are going to see a $1 trillion hack. Now, you might think, that's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. We're never going to get to a $1 trillion hack. If the total value of Bitcoin goes to 300 trillion, so no, let's go to, where are we now? 2.4. Let's go 240 trillion. And a $1 trillion hack at that point is 0.5% of the supply of Bitcoin, which is, what's that? 21, 2.1, 100,000 Bitcoin. 100,000 Bitcoin hack is a $1 trillion hack. It's going to happen in the future. At some point, there will be a $1 trillion hack, and it will probably be of Bitcoin, and it will probably be an insider in one of the big exchanges that basically leaks the keys or software gets installed and it breaks in. That's where we're going to get to. So as we go through these types of hacks, I mean, if this had happened 4 or 5 years ago, we would be sitting here. I'd have flames on the screen. I'd be wearing a policeman's outfit and a policeman's hat, and I'd be blowing my little dog whistle, and I'd be screaming, "This is the end of crypto." Nobody's batting an eyelid, but it's $14.5 billion, and no one's batting an eyelid. And in fact, what people care about more is this next article. And again, I have covered this before, but that doesn't mean I can't cover it again. And that's to do with Bitcoin being hacked, crypto being hacked. In fact, I think Elon Musk has been told he's not allowed to say the word Bitcoin because he doesn't mention Bitcoin in this conversation with Grok. Can we please get rid of them? There we go. Later. Is quantum computing a threat for Bitcoin? Elon Musk asks Grok. Now, I'll give you my opinion, which I've told you this before, but I'm going to reiterate it for anybody that's in chat. By the way, chat is so quiet. Say hello. And I don't do this enough, and I know I don't do this enough. If nobody talks in chat, then YouTube doesn't think there's anybody there. If you don't type "Mike, you're an idiot," or "well said," or anything like that, if you don't type anything or hit the like button or anything, we don't get any traction, which means we don't appear in the algorithm, which means nobody finds us. Now, I know you're all absolutely transfixed with what I'm saying. I completely get that. And if I was sitting where you were sitting as well, I'd be transfixed. But by all means, just type the odd word once in a while. The lion sleeps. Exactly. Right then. So my thought on this, which I've said before, is if you have a quantum computer strong enough to hack Bitcoin, then you're going to be China, Russia, America, India, the UK. By the time we get to the point of being able to hack Bitcoin, Bitcoin will have fixed itself. It will become quantum resistant. The wallets that are being created in the future, they will all be quantum resistant wallets. That's my thought on it. Secondly, why would you hack a system to bring down the second or third largest commodity in the world when it's not in your best interests? Because you'd have to look to somewhere like North Korea to do that. And why would they do that when they can just take $5 billion here, $10 billion here? So again, it's back to the Batman and the Joker thing again, isn't it? Batman would cease to exist without the Joker. The Joker is the reason that there is a Batman. If Batman didn't exist, what would the Joker? The Joker would have no challenge. So there's a symbiotic relationship between the Bitcoin existing and these major powerhouses that have the ability to build quantum computing. And that's the key, really, for me. So also, the next thing is, if you did build a quantum computer strong enough to breach SHA-256, would you go after Bitcoin first? I wouldn't. I would go after another government. That's what I would do. So why go after Bitcoin? You wouldn't. Now, anyway, Elon Musk didn't use the word Bitcoin in this question. He asked, does it actually have? Here we go. Nope. There we go. Grok, estimate the probability of quantum computing cracking SHA-256. No. Does it actually break down? Grok noted that the bad actors will require millions of error-corrected qubits to breach Bitcoin's cryptographic system. At the moment, current systems from Google and IBM have demonstrated early stages of error correction, with full error correction years away. Okay, it's years away. While some speculate claims of the Google Willow quantum chip breaching Bitcoin security have previously sparked concerns, the consensus is that a real threat is at least 10 to 20 years away. Now, Bitcoin is what, 14 years old? And look where it's come in 14 years. Where is Bitcoin going to be in 7 years? Where is Bitcoin going to be in 3.5 years? Because the acceleration is going to be that quick. Bitcoin will be more secure in 3 or 4 years' time than quantum computing. And it will become, and this is the word you need to use, quantum resistant. Now, there are some caveats to that. Satoshi is not around to move his 1 million Bitcoin. That's a bounty. Okay, that's the Titanic. That's the golden egg that you want. However, there would be such an outcry if anybody stole that Bitcoin and kept it for themselves. What a lot of white hat people have said, that somebody should at some point aim to hack it and then move it to a quantum resistant wallet and then lock it away forever. Now, I'm all on board for that. I think that's the way forward. But again, we're so far away from this that it's just not feasibly likely to happen. So Elon Musk Grok has eased fears in the short term. Bitcoin developers are taking several proactive steps to remain ahead of the curve. Developers are exploring quantum resistant algorithms amid a raft of Bitcoin improvement proposals, BIPs, to transition the network away from legacy systems. Meanwhile, Ethereum is also bracing for quantum threats in the coming years. Last week, developers unveiled the 10-year lean plan to make Ethereum quantum resistant while improving transaction speeds. Amid the conversation about quantum threat, Bitcoin is picking itself up. We don't care about that. So the point of the matter is, in my opinion, we don't need to worry about this stuff like this. This is not the stuff that we need to worry about. Let me very quickly just make sure that I get rid of this stutter thing that goes on. Basically, it takes a lot of power to run a multi-stream. It takes a lot of power. And this laptop, by the way, is 4 months old. And boy, oh boy, does this thing struggle. Okay? It struggles. It's got all kinds of pain. And we do it slightly differently to everybody else, and that's probably why we suffer more than everybody else. Everybody else just sits there with a chart on the screen and their head in the corner, waving, okay? I know, we could do that, but I don't want to be like anybody else. The wallets, I wouldn't be trusting the wallets. I'd be looking at Phantom, MetaMask, Trust, those types of wallets first to introduce any level of quantum resistant elements, certainly. I wouldn't be looking at anything in the near future. It's one of those things that there's a term called catastrophization or catastrophization, something like that. And it basically means you think of the worst possible outcome in the future. And you see it a lot in the mainstream media, and they feed it, and then it feeds into your anxiety, and you end up worrying about something that never comes to pass. And I am as guilty as anybody for that, because I have a very, very, very furtive imagination. My imagination runs away with itself all the time. And I am one of those people that thinks about the worst possible scenario. But then, if you put me into a situation where the world is about to end, I am as calm as a cucumber. Now, I believe that there is a psychological term for it. I can't remember what it was. I don't think it's ADHD. I don't think it's that. But maybe it's one of those types of things. You put me in a serious situation and I will remain calm. If you leave me to my own thoughts, then the world is going to end. And the problem is the media feeds off a lot of that. And they're going to tell you about, and I've got to be very careful what I say, but they'll tell you about certain types of things that might happen in the world. You know, the fact that Russia, America are coming to a standoff and all these kind of things. We've had the ability to create an extinction level event for the last 80 years, and it's never come to pass. Okay? Self-preservation, we talked about it before when we're talking about hacking Bitcoin. Self-preservation is you would do as much damage to yourself as everybody else. Self-preservation goes a long way in the world that we live in, okay? And a lot of these things that people tell you about, Bitcoin's going to get hacked, Ethereum's going to get hacked, and you're going to see it. And that's why I tell you about these things. People are going to tell you Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme. Bitcoin is one of the fifth largest assets in the world. Number one. Number two, it's full of flaws. It's the most secure network that mankind has ever built. Oh, the quantum computing things, that's going to come around and that's going to hack all of Bitcoin and Bitcoin's going to go to zero. 10 to 20 years away, and they're already talking about making it quantum resistant now. Okay? So, try and dictate to you the conversation. Okay? When people don't know what they're talking about, don't mock them. Try and educate them. Okay? If we educate enough people, they will join the crypto fam, revolution, whatever you want to call it. They'll join it. But they are just going to read something on the front of a newspaper. The US Today, I think the US Today carried a headline yesterday that said XRP is the best asset to buy with $500. Now, I said under that article, idiot, buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin. That's what I put. Because that's what you should be doing. But think about that. If somebody buys XRP for $500 today, and let's say it does go to $7.50, that will have gone up from $3 today to $7.50. They'll have gained 2.5 times their money by the end of this year. Will that article have helped bring people to crypto? Yes, it will. Because people will read it in a newspaper and they'll go to Robinhood or Binance and they'll buy $500 of XRP. And it will bring people to crypto. Is it a scam token? In most people's eyes, it's not. And I know what you're going to say. But the point of the matter is, we're going to get people by hook or by crook. We're going to get people watching my videos. Very few. We're going to get people reading USA Today. We're going to get people through Donald Trump. We're going to get people through ETFs. We're going to get people in different ways. Okay? Doesn't matter how they get there. Get there if you can. Isn't that a song? I think that's a song. Anyway, I'm not going to start singing. Day by day, people are becoming... But I think day by day, people are becoming more knowledgeable to a lot of things. I think these kind of extreme groups, and that's what I'm going to call them, these extreme groups that push their certain ways of thinking, I think people have had enough. I think it's called fatigue, isn't it? There's fatigue towards a lot of these things. And the average good person out there, and remember, 99.5% of humanity are decent people. And that's what you're never told. Okay? Everybody worries about bills, having a family, mortgages, getting a new job, paying a mortgage. The majority of the world worries about the same things. And it's only that little minority on the left and the right that cause these problems. And then the media, they magnify these problems. Look at that person. Aren't they mean? Oh, aren't all of those people are mean? And it's guilty by association. That's what it is. And I think Kishan is absolutely spot on. People are becoming more educated in some ways, less educated in another. I think people need to go and do some history lessons, if you ask me. But I can't talk about that stuff on here. I'd have to go over to Rumble. And I think we've got a sum total of 5 people following us on Rumble, so that's not going to go down very well over there. The point of the matter is, I think people are becoming more educated in certain ways than others. And I think that's a good thing. Kids nowadays are drinking less alcohol, taking less substances. That's a great thing. The converse side of that is there's less opportunity for kids to meet boys and girls and get married and have kids. So our populations are going to collapse. Swings and roundabouts. AI will come along and put robots into factories so we don't have to work in factories anymore. So maybe we don't need the population that we've got. Anyway, I'm not going to go off on one today. It's 12:04 already. I've kept you long enough. You are all greatly appreciated. Maybe I don't tell you enough. I greatly appreciate you all showing up nearly every day of the week to watch me at, Tariq, Kishan, KB, Solo, Sky, Danny, Mags. I can name pretty much all the regulars off the top of my head. And I wouldn't swap that for the world. I'd rather have people I know than people I don't know. So anyway, on that note, thank you. You are all fantastic. I am streaming tomorrow. You'll see, by the way, there's no stream There's no Wednesday night stream. I think we've done 4, 6 on the trot, something like that. So we're having a week off, and then we'll be back with 3 consecutive Wednesday nights. I think the order is Maple, Wolf Swap, Mew. I think that's the order this week. So we're going to come back with that. Anyway, thank you for everybody. I'll see you all in the morning at the same time. Take care.